Hello friends, this week on Heat Vision Breakdown we are joined by very special guests Chris McKenna and Erik Sommars, the writers of Spider-Man Far From Home, which is in theaters right now. We're going to talk all about Spidey. Thank you so much for joining me, guys.
Oh, thanks for having us.
All right, one of the things that this film does is it officially names the snap that Thanos wiped off half of the life in the universe with, and they call it the Blip. That is a name that I wasn't expecting for it. Where did that word come from, and how did you guys come up with the Blip?
It's funny. We spent a lot of time in a windowless room with the creative team, Marvel and John Watts and Amy Pascal, and someone I think on the Marvel team called it the Blip, and then we just adopted that.
Yeah, I think John and the team had come up with calling it the Blip very early. And so just as soon as we started talking about everything, they were calling it the Blip, and we weren't sure that was, we were talking about the same thing, but...
Because they only told us a little bit about what happened at Endgame, so maybe we're like, oh, is this something else?
Additional thing? How bad is this Thanos guy?
Yeah, it's funny. We were working on this for a long time, and we only had little bits and pieces of what happened in Infinity and Endgame to go off of.
And that was one of the things, was the snap.
Yeah.
I guess if you weren't there, you wouldn't really know that he snapped his fingers. You would have
Exactly.
Yeah, as Chris said, it's kind of cool that people who weren't there would give it a different name.
Right.
Because it would have lots of different names.
It raised a lot of questions, and one of the questions that keeps coming up is, if you were on an airplane and somebody snapped you, when you snap back in, are you still in midair?
We asked that exact question.
Okay.
It was explained to us, if you haven't seen Endgame, Bruce, in the form of the Hulk, snaps everyone back, but Bruce, in making that snap back, made sure to think about bringing back everyone safe and sound. So people were not falling 35,000 feet out of the sky. That would be a bummer.
Yeah.
That would have been a great. That would have been a great epilogue though at Endgame.
Sure, just all those
showing
people just die anyway.
It's an additional,
Getting hit by buses.
tragedy to happen on top of the other huge tragedy.
I'm also curious about the things that snap back with you, like your clothes come back with you when those get snapped out. If you were holding a cell phone, I guess your cell phone comes back with you. If you were eating a banana, you still have your banana.
Yes.
Yes. We had lots of conversations.
We did.
So
Honestly,
you know
there
the
were months
rules.
of this conversation.
Oh, so there are established rules then for the snap.
Well,
I think so, yeah.
Or the
we
Blip, I'm
definitely. I mean, I think that's part of the fun with Far From Home was we really wanted to play with the nitty gritty of this crazy cosmic event that happened and then was reversed. That's why in the opening you get to see. I guess Bruce didn't account for marching bands and basketball teams who then collide. We talked about animals. I mean, it's half of all life on the planet. So, I mean, in the universe. So,
one of the great things about Spider-Man and Spider-Man stories is they happen a little bit more on the ground level, a little bit removed from sort of the grander, more epic things. And so we always wanted to deal with what is the more ground level repercussions of the snap. And so we talked extensively about all that kind of stuff.
they didn't go for the half the E. coli in your system getting blipped away and then blipping back, and how everyone would have like digestive problems throughout the movie.
Right, well that was my main.
They didn't like that. They didn't want to go down that
You
route.
went real deep with it, yeah. In this film, we also find out that Maria Hill and Nick Fury were Skrulls the entire time. John Watts has said that there was a line in the movie about Nick Fury cutting his toast diagonally, which would have been a hint that he is a Skrull. Were there other little pieces that you guys put in there to kind of signal to the audience that these are not actually the characters, but Skrull versions of the characters?
I think if you watch the movie, we're careful to have them always be in public when they're talking to each other, so that we're protecting the idea that if they were just alone by themselves, they wouldn't be just talking as Skrulls. But I don't know if there was anything else specific that was dropped in there.
Well, speaking of that, there is a line in there where they say, I thought the Kree sleeper cells were supposed to be a secret, is what Nick Fury and Maria Hill say to each other. And I think they're in private when they say that line.
But they're they're in Berlin and they're outside, so they wouldn't be scrolling around.
Yeah.
You never know if anyone's like, oh,
Yeah.
those are Skrulls over there.
They're in disguise at that point.
But that line itself is, there's a lot to that line. It's not just a throwaway line. At least it doesn't feel like a line that way. When you write something like that, is that hinting at something farther down the line? Was that something, a missive that came from above that like, well, we need to put that line in there? Is that something you guys came up with?
We could lie and say
do
yes. But honestly, it was one of those things where we needed a downbeat with Maria and Nick talking in their disguises outside of the Berlin headquarters. This is before even Captain Marvel came out, so we would be asking plot points and they would be giving us little things here and there, and that was one of those things that they felt like, oh yeah, they could be talking about the Kree. Sorry, it's that boring of a story.
Keeping on the subject of Skrulls, Edith can't pick up Skrulls apparently, because when Peter is wearing Edith, it doesn't say that Nick Fury is not Nick Fury when he's wearing it. Is that accurate?
Or Nick Fury is clever enough that he knows an end run and sort of an end run around Edith. Maybe he's part of the network. I don't know. We'll see.
But if Edith couldn't recognize Skrulls, I would give Edith a break for that, because has Edith seen Skrulls? Has Edith had any exposure to Skrulls?
Even know that Skrulls exist? Can Skrulls copy DNA down to like the blood level that you'd be able to pick up? If it scanned you, you would still be you, even though it's a Skrull copy of you?
It's a good question. I think, you know, it goes to the question of did Tony, who designed the system, know about Skrulls? If he did, was he working in league with Nick with them so that he'd want to protect Skrull identity? These are all things that I'm sure the writers of the next Spider-Man movie are gonna
get into. Those guys are gonna knock it out of the park.
Finally get one right.
You gave him a roadmap.
Yeah.
The name Edith, it stands for Even Dead, I'm the Hero, that Tony Stark came up with. But fans have noticed that it is also the name of a woman that Tony's father dated in the show Agent Carter. Is there a deeper meaning to the name Edith?
Yes, they found it. They discovered it. Yeah, they win. They win $1 million, and they'll know where it's buried. That's hidden in the movie too.
All right.
I mean, if you want a real answer for that, it was we just knew that. Tony,
so people aren't getting $1 million. I want to be.
Yeah.
Oh boy, now we're in trouble.
We knew that Tony would come up with a funny name for this system, like he does for everything. So we came up with the most Tony version of it, and it just happened to be Edith.
Oh, so it was just a coincidence.
With the woman that Howard Stark used to date? Yes.
Okay, and there's no $1 million prize.
If they find it, it's theirs.
All right, that's fair.
Let's look closely.
On to the multiverse. The multiverse was something that the trailers kind of teased that like this might have been a multiverse, the opening of the multiverse in the MCU. However, it was found out that Mysterio was lying about it. We did find out from Endgame that Tilda Swinton's the Ancient One character has talked about the multiverse, and Feige has said that she's a bit more of a trustworthy source than somebody like Mysterio. What's your take on the multiverse? Is there a multiverse?
Yes, in the comic books there are multiverses, obviously. We were doing a con artist movie, and we wanted the most believable cover story for Quentin Beck. So therefore, it seemed like not making him part of this universe, but of another universe seemed like the best cover story. Whether actually there is a multiverse in the MCU, I think remains to be seen.
Yeah, as Chris said, you know, when you're doing a con or some sort of big deception or something, just a lot of time and effort goes into protecting it and setting it up. And someone on the creative team pitched the multiverse idea, I don't remember whom, but immediately we all thought, yes, that would be a great way. People will ask fewer questions. There are so many questions they could ask that simply can't be answered, because you can just say, well, I'm from the multiverse. And so it just seemed like a great way for Beck to help Beck accomplish his goal and help us get one over on the audience.
Because the audience, they want there to be a multiverse, and so you're playing off of their love and manipulating them.
Yeah, in a very meta way, you conned us as well. So frankly, I have issues with you guys.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Speaking of Mysterio, a lot of people think that he might still be alive, and that maybe at the end he was pulling one last con, and he's not actually dead. Is Mysterio no more?
Great question.
Oof, that's a good question.
I would like an answer to that.
No, you wouldn't. You don't want an answer to that.
You're slippery. You're both very slippery. Revealing that certain characters are Skrulls kind of opens up a Pandora's box in the MCU. And it means that lots of other people could possibly be Skrulls as well. Do you think it's possible that there are other people who are Skrulls that we haven't discovered yet? And if so, did you kind of write clues in there that people could pick up if we dissect?
I think it's certainly possible. We didn't write anything in specifically, and we have not personally planned anything out. But I think it certainly opens up a world of possibilities that's very exciting. And
I don't know if you're conning me or not right now. See, this is the door that you guys have opened.
Is that evasive enough?
Frankly, Marvel tells us very little. So they might, I mean, we don't know. The idea that there were Skrulls in this movie was an idea that was floated around very early in the story breaking and worked out, I think, in a fun way, particularly since the movie is all about how many lies are being told. And, you know, so up until the final tag, there's still another lie to be revealed. But Marvel, they are very good at keeping secrets.
Yeah, mysteries on mysteries.
I think our first priority was just to think about the movie itself and let's do what's the most satisfying and pays off the best in the movie. Nothing was ever mandated, like, hey, we want you to do this and put these scrolls in. It was all about just trying to make the best movie we could, and then now, fortunately, we've got these great things at the end that are really gonna promise all kinds of cool stuff in the future, which is really exciting.
I think one of the other great reveals in this film, and one that people really went crazy for in all the screens that I've been in, is J.K. Simmons returning as J. Jonah Jameson. Was that originally written with him in mind, or were you going to do it with or without him in the script? Was it originally written for J.K., we have to have J.K. for this?
They were talking about bringing back J.K. pretty early in the process, and that was an exciting idea for all of us. And then the new idea at some point was, well, let's change up the Daily Bugle. And if we're going to bring him back, are we going to bring him back in the exact same capacity, or do we want to try to spin it in some way, change it in some way, perhaps to reflect the way the media landscape has changed and maybe in keeping with the themes of the movie? And so then the idea was pitched by someone on the team to have the Daily Bugle now be this internet kind of thing and have him be more of an Alex Jones kind of character, and we all liked that idea, so that's what we went with.
It's similar to last year's iteration of him in the Marvel Spider-Man video game on the PlayStation 4.
That's where we stole it.
Okay, that was my question then. So your thieves.
No, it's funny. We were far down the road with that idea, that incarnation of J. Jonah, and then the game came out.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh. Everyone was like, oh, okay, well.
But we still liked the idea enough that we were like, oh, good idea, guys. It's a bummer we.
We've seen with all the Iron Man villains in every single one of his films are kind of people who were scorned by Tony Stark or his family at some point. We've also now seen that in the Spider-Man films with Vulture last film and now with Mysterio in this film. Is that something that is a mandate for the character, that this is the type of villains that Spider-Man's going to be going against, the same as Iron Man was going against because he's kind of taking up that mantle? Or is it just whatever works best for this story, this is the way that we want to tell?
I think it's the latter. I mean, for us, the backstory of Vulture was just something that evolved from the team talking about what would be a good motivation and talking about keeping it personal and to Peter and things like that. And then the backstory of Beck was similar. We were just talking a lot about this villain and his relation to Peter and what he does. What does this villain do? What is his nature? These tricks and this and that. And ultimately we landed on that being the backstory, and that felt like the best for this movie, but it certainly wasn't part of an overall mandate.
Right, because we were trying to figure out the technology he'd be using to pull off the illusions. Then someone referenced the barf technology from Civil War that Tony was using as a self-help mechanism, as he referred to it. And in all these Marvel movies, from our experience, it seems so great when you can draw upon stuff that's already been established. And so drawing on that gave him an instant tie to Tony, and it just sort of went from there. It seemed like, oh, personalizing this villain with this tech, and with Tony, who's the surrogate father of Peter, who may have also had sort of a personal grudge that, that he worked for Tony, but didn't get the recognition that he felt he deserved. And then you have this teenage kid who's getting not only the attention of Tony, but is being crowned a hero by him. It all just seemed to fall into place. But I think, 2 movies now, personal grudges against Tony worked pretty well. I guess they should do that for the next one. Though, I would say at this point, hopefully there's, the situation that was teed up in the end of this movie will organically lead to
all kinds of new stuff.
Yeah. The most important question I have for you guys, and I saved it for the end, where did Peter Tingle come from?
We were just kicking around the room with the team, with Watts, and I think we were like, well, we can't, let's not just call it Spider Sense. Let's try to, as with everything we try to do, let's try to bend it a little or subvert it. And then I think Watts, we were somehow the word tingle came up, I don't know, Spider Tingle, and then Watts said Peter Tingle, and we're like, that's horrible, yes, we have to use that. Yeah, no, that's super embarrassing.
It's just the kind of thing your aunt would call it, it would embarrass you, and just as soon as it was pitched, we thought it was perfect for, that's what a high school kid does not want his superpower to be called. So of course then her aunt's boyfriend is gonna call it that.
And then someone sent me a tweet right after the movie came out last week. I think there was a bar in New York that suddenly Peter Tingle was on their cocktail menu.
It sounds like a cocktail,
oh,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe not one I would order.
No.
But if somebody gave it to me, I would drink it. Anyway, thank you very much to Chris McKenna and Erik Sommars, the writers of Spider-Man Far From Home, which is in theaters right now. If you're one of the only people who haven't seen this movie, go and see it right now. If you have seen it, go see it again. Thank you so much, you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.